Did you know that British and American English can have completely different meanings for the same idiom? For example, in the UK, to knock someone up means to wake them up. But in the US, well, let's just say it means something very different. And that's the funny thing about language. It's not just a means to communicate, it actually reflects the culture behind it. Idioms, especially, they're kind of like inside jokes of a country's history and habits. And when you use one wrong, well, it's not just confusing. I mean, it can be hilarious, but when you use the right one, you instantly sound more natural, more connected, and more confident. And that's what we're all here for, right? So it's kind of like when you're tying this bow tie. Both sides look similar, but if you twist one the wrong way, oh my gosh, the whole thing looks totally different. It's crooked. So I want you to stick around because today we're going to explore some classic British and American idioms, the stories behind them, and how to use them naturally in international conversations. And don't go anywhere, because at the end I'll share today's Mastery Minute, great idiom, plus I'll be answering your questions live, so don't forget to drop them in the comments. And make sure you like, subscribe, and share this episode with anyone who loves learning about English and culture. So, let me tell you about Emma. She is a British marketing manager working in New York. Brilliant, witty, and absolutely loved by her clients. But one day, during a meeting, she said, "All right, team, let's table this discussion." Suddenly, her American colleagues nodded and closed their laptops. Okay, meeting's over. And Emma was confused. You see, in British English, table this discussion means let's bring it up for a debate. But in American English, it means let's postpone this to a later date. It's the same phrase, but opposite meaning. Later on, she told me, "Dennis, I wasn't sure if I'd accidentally ended my own meeting." Because she kind of had. She had to struggle to bring it back. And that's when she realized something powerful. Idioms are not just good for learning languages, even though it was her native language. They actually reveal how different cultures think. So let me tell you why idioms matter. Idioms are not just random phrases. They're actually windows into culture and humor and history, and they're the glue that holds their natural speech together. When you can understand them, you're not just speaking English, you're actually feeling it. And that's why idioms matter. They give you insight into how people think and what they value, how they connect. Without them, even if you have perfect grammar, you can sound flat or mechanical. Some people say robotic. So let's go from that little story about Emma into the fun stuff. The colorful and the confusing and sometimes hilarious world of British and American idioms, and we'll talk about how these differences reveal the culture behind the words. All right, let's get into it here. Hold on just a second. I'm getting some technical difficulties here. What's happening? Oh, I hate when that happens. Okay. Let's see here. Come on. Come on, man. All right. All right, let's see if we can get this done right. Let's see if we can get this done right. All right. So we're going to start with British idioms. So let's start with British idioms. British idioms, they actually have a lot of history because Britain's been around for a long time. And they have history, they have class, they have understatement. So you've got to understand, British people, they love irony and they also love self-depreciation. They put themselves down quite a bit. So here's one that I'm not familiar with because I'm not British. It's called chuffed to bits. I'm chuffed to bits. And what does it mean? It means I'm really pleased or I'm proud. In America, if we're really pleased or proud, we would say something like, I'm over the moon or I'm thrilled. But that's the big difference, right? So, for example, if you were talking to a British person, they might say, oh yeah, after getting the promotion, she was absolutely chuffed to bits. Sounds strange, doesn't it? But next time you hear it, you'll know what we're talking about. Here's another one. Throwing a spanner into the works. Now, that means causing a problem or a delay. So this actually comes from old British factories where spanners, mechanical spanners, we call them wrenches in America, throwing one in would stop the machine. So throwing a spanner into the works stops things and causes delays. In America, we say we threw a wrench into the gears. Basically the same exact thing, but a little different, right? So you might hear someone say, the sudden policy change really threw a spanner in the works for our project. I didn't do the British accent on that because I wasn't feeling it. All right, here's a good one. Bits and bobs. Bits and bobs means little small miscellaneous things. Like somebody might say, I've got a few bits and bobs to finish before I go. Huh? In America we say odds and ends. Odds and ends. Where, here's another example. Or here's another one. Bite the biscuit. Bite the biscuit. That sounds familiar. If you've been watching my show for a while, you've probably heard me say bite the bullet more than once. And this is similar to bite the bullet. And it means to do something unpleasant or inevitable. Like, for example, I didn't want to tell my boss about the mistake, but I decided to bite the biscuit and own up. Strange? Yeah, for me too. Now here's an interesting one. Taking the mickey. Taking the mickey. That means teasing or mocking someone. Now, this one, you might have actually probably not heard this one. There's a little bit of a stronger slang version called taking the piss in the UK and Ireland and even Australia. But it means the same thing, to mock someone. In America, we call that making fun of or ribbing someone. So you might hear someone say, stop taking the mickey out of me. I know my accent sounds funny. But nowadays, you probably hear them say, taking the piss. Stop taking the piss. So, all right. Now let's get into some American idioms. American idioms are a little bit different. They're direct, they're bold, and oftentimes influenced by popular culture. See, Americans prefer action, idioms, they prefer simplicity, and the idioms in America tend to reflect optimism and competition and, well, the frontier spirit. Because, they had to have a lot of that spirit to take over the whole country, right? Well, okay. First one up is ballpark figure. That means an approximate number. And of course, the origin comes from baseball. If you're in the ballpark, you might say, if you're in the ballpark, that means you're close enough to the right answer. British equivalent to that would be something like a rough estimate or a guesstimate. So, for example, you might hear this in a meeting. Someone would say, can you give me a ballpark figure for the total project cost? It means estimate the number. All right, the next one, shoot from the hip. Well, that means to speak or act without thinking too much. Okay? And of course, the origin of this comes from cowboys. That's an iconic American figure, cowboys. They make quick decisions. They don't mess around. They talk fast, or they shoot first and ask questions later. The British equivalent to this would be something like speak off the cuff, or even go off half-cocked, which is another gun reference, but kind of older, from back when they used different styles of guns. So you might hear someone described like this: wow, he really shoots from the hip in meetings instead of planning his points. If you got somebody like that, drop a comment. Next one is go the extra mile. This means to make an extra effort. And the origins of this comes from the Bible. Actually, that's one of the things that Jesus said. If someone asks you to walk a mile with him, go another mile beyond that. So later on, business adopted it for its culture. A British equivalent for that would be something like pull out all the stops. Check out that one. I actually did that one a while back. It has to do with steam organs. And for example, you might hear someone say, our customer service team always goes the extra mile for clients. Pretty good. Okay, next one, hit the books. Do you like to study a lot? Because that's what this means. It means to study hard. A British equivalent to that would be something like swa up or revise. I don't know why, but all right. An example, I'm sorry I can't go out tonight. I need to hit the books for my exam. Another one that I love is under the weather, and I love this because it's a maritime origin. It means feeling sick, because on ships, the deck that's on top where the guys work, that's out in the wind and rain and everything. That's called the weather deck. So when they're sick, they stayed below the weather deck, literally under the weather. So British equivalent for that would be something like feeling peaky or a bit off color. I'm feeling a bit off color. So if you have to call off from work, you could say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm feeling a bit under the weather today, so I'd like to work from home. Okay. All right, we got to hurry through this. I just realized the time. Darn those technical difficulties. So as English has spread worldwide, idioms have actually started to blend. And you'll often hear hybrid sayings like fancy a coffee instead of fancy a cuppa, like a cup of tea. Or a British person might be saying something like, let's touch base. So let me tell you, saying I'll knock you up tomorrow might be very innocent in London. But in Los Angeles, you're going to get some strange looks. You see, in the UK, to knock someone up originally meant to wake them by knocking on their door or window early in the morning. This came back from the 1800s when alarm clocks were non-existent. And so knocker-uppers literally did that as a job. And it was quite expensive, too, to hire a knocker-upper. But in American English, to knock someone up means that you've gotten someone pregnant. Ooh, which is why the phrase can cause a very awkward misunderstanding. Okay, so be careful. It's innocent in London, but a little weird in Los Angeles. All right, let's do a quick practice. We're going to cover some that we haven't even talked. See if you can guess what I'm skint meant. This is British. What do you think? Well, if you guessed it means I'm broke, you're right. How about this one? I'll give you a bell. What do you think? Well, that one means I'll call you. I'll call you. Now, you've probably heard this one in the movies. That's brilliant! In America, we just say, that's awesome. How about he's full of beans? I bet you'll never guess that it means he's excited or energetic. Or on the opposite side, oh, I'm knackered. The first time I heard this, I was so confused. But what it really means is, I'm exhausted. Oh, I'm so tired, right? All right, to the American side. Let's see if you can catch something. How about, what does it mean to take a rain check? Well, if you take a rain check, that means you want to postpone something or do something later. How about piece of cake? In England, they're not going to know what you're talking about, but they do know easy peasy. We've already talked about bite the bullet. Can you remember what it was in the UK? Ah, that's right. Bite the biscuit. Because biscuits were hard back then. All right, do you know what an elevator is in the UK? Oh, that's right. They call it a lift. A lift. And how about the difference between a cookie in the UK, or in America we call it a cookie. In the UK they call it a biscuit. So, totally different situation in America. All right, I know we've gone through these a lot, but remember, using idioms isn't about sounding perfect. It's about sounding connected. Every idiom that you use is a bridge to understanding culture and humor. So don't worry about mixing them up. Just enjoy learning. Every mistake is just another laugh, okay? And another step towards mastery. So don't beat yourself up. And here's your challenge for this week. I want you to try this. Try using one British idiom and one American idiom in a conversation or a message, and just see how people react. And most importantly, have fun with it. You don't want to take yourself too seriously. And if you want to go deeper into how culture shapes communication, check out my self-study course, Mastering English for Busy Professionals. Links in the description. You can build real fluency in just 10 minutes a day. And you'll find that link down, and the link for the blog in the comments and the chat. All right? Now, it's time. We are so late. It's time. Well, we're not that late, but we are kind of late. So it's time for the Mastery Minute. And you know what that means? We are going to talk about not really an idiom, but an interesting expression that if you've ever been to London, you'll understand. Have you ever ridden the London subway? Or the, what do they call it in London? The Underground. The London Underground. And you'll hear an announcement, mind the gap. Well, it's more than just a safety warning. It's actually become an idiom with a fascinating story. They started using this back in the 1960s on the London Tube, or Underground, to remind passengers to watch their step between the train and the platform. But over time, mind the gap became a cultural phrase, meaning be aware of the difference or distance between two things. Okay, maybe that's not very clear, but you can use this in business and in life. For example, mind the gap between what you promise and what you deliver. Wow, it's a simple phrase, right? But it's a powerful reminder, whether it's cultural gaps, communication gaps, or expectation gaps. Awareness is the first step to connection. So next time you hear or see that sign, think of it as a metaphor for communication. Don't ignore the gap. Mind it. Okay? And if you found this story interesting, give it a like, hit subscribe, and share it with a friend who loves learning about English and culture. And that, my friends, is all the time we have for today's 15-minute mastery. We explored the quirky world of British and American idioms and learned how a single phrase can say so much about culture. And next time, we'll uncover effective learning techniques, how to stop wasting time and finally study smarter, not harder. All right, we'll talk about why some study habits don't work, what successful learners do differently, and how you can master English faster without burning out. And until then, hey, keep your bow tie straight, your words sharp, and your curiosity open. That's it. I'm Dennis Wilborn, and this has been 19-minute mastery. We'll see you next time.